Well, good morning and welcome to a really rather nice, if overcast morning here in Cambridge. Now, today's video, we're going to look at some of the stats from the coldest days in January to these relatively mild days that we're having in February and see how the heat pump's been performing. Now, a lot of you have been asking for an update on these things, my fence-mounted solar panels. I'm going to take a couple more days, gather a little bit more data, and then I promise you at the end of February, I'll give you the whole winter's update. Sneak peek, it's not as good as I thought it was going to be. But today we're going to dig into that heat pump data. We're going to look at the coldest day in January versus the warmest day in February and see how it's performing. So to start with, we're going to look at how this heat pump performed from the coldest recorded day I had in January to the warmest day so far in February. The 12th of January, which was the coldest day on record, to the warmest day so far, which actually was yesterday on the 21st of February. Now to do this, we're going to use my digital whiteboard. So let's start with how much energy did this use on the coldest day in January. Now looking into the stats, we used 30.04 kilowatt hours of energy over the full 24-hour period, and that gave us both heating and hot water. During that period, it produced 94 kilowatt hours of combined heat and hot water, which gave us a coefficient of performance of 3.12. Really, a coefficient of performance should be measured over a long period of time. This is why sometimes you'll hear it referred to as an SCOP, a seasonal coefficient of performance, because it's measured over an entire season and then you average out all of the peaks and troughs. So on the 12th of January, we had a daytime temperature which was a maximum of -1 degree Celsius and a minimum of -4 at night. Now let's look at the 21st of February. Yesterday was a relatively mild day, very little wind. Like today, a little bit overcast, but some sunny periods with the sun peeking through the clouds at some points in the day. So yesterday, the heat pump used 5.5 kilowatt hours of electricity, and that gave us 24 kilowatt hours of combined heat and hot water. Now I should say, we haven't changed any of the settings between the 12th of January and the 21st of February. This is purely down to the change in weather. That gave us a coefficient of performance of 4.32, which is pretty good for February. The heat pump averaged 231 watt hours. That means for every hour of the day, it was using an average of 231 watts. Now, this is the main reason that I'm producing this video, because when I produced my video back in January, a few people got in touch and were quite horrified by how much power the heat pump was drawing. And on those really cold days, it will use a lot of electricity. But on days like yesterday, which to be honest, are only going to get better as we go through the year, 5.5 kilowatt hours for the whole day is negligible. Now the temperature yesterday, we had a maximum of 17 degrees Celsius, and at night time it only dropped down to 13 degrees. So a relatively comfortable February day. Now that doesn't mean we won't have cold days as we go towards the end of February and into March, but we can start to see the temperature difference between mid-January and mid-February. There's already a massive difference, and this is meaning that the heat pump is starting to really shine. It's really starting to find its legs, and to be able to produce heat and hot water for just 5.5 kilowatts, I'm looking forward to seeing what it will do as we get into March, April and May. So now let's talk about what it costs to run. Now if we look back to January, we didn't produce an awful lot of solar on our house. In fact, we produced 1.1 kilowatt hours for the whole day. It was a pretty grey, overcast, miserable day. Yesterday, on another day that wasn't exactly sunny, we produced 21.6 kilowatt hours. Now we'll come back to that solar production in a minute because we're going to use those to give you the costs, not only if you had solar, but also if you were just running on a gas boiler. So now let's take a look at what it cost to run on January the 12th. Now, if you remember, we used 30.04 kilowatt hours on January the 12th, but we produced 1 kilowatt from our solar array. So let's assume that we'll deduct that off and we're only working on 29.04 kilowatt hours. We imported all of that energy at night time at 7 pence per kilowatt hour and stored it in our batteries. That means it cost us roughly £2.03 to run this heat pump for both heating and hot water on January the 12th. Now, what if we'd have kept our gas boiler? Or if we'd have done what lots of you in the comments recommended? You should have just got yourself a combi boiler and been done with it. Well, even a combi boiler is only going to be 90% efficient. So to produce that same amount of heat, we're actually going to need 104 kilowatt hours of heat. To do that with a gas boiler would have cost us £6.26. Significantly more. Now, I agree, we've got solar panels, we've got batteries, we're able to take advantage of those cheap rates. But still, 3 times the price to use gas. Now let's jump forward to yesterday. Yesterday we produced 21.6 kilowatt hours. The heat pump only used 5.5 kilowatt hours of that. So to us, it was effectively free. What if you didn't have solar? Well, let's assume the worst case. You're on the standard rate. You're getting your electricity at 24 pence per kilowatt hour. This would have cost you £1.32 to run for the day. If we compare that to a combi boiler at 90% efficiency, you would have required 26.6 kilowatt hours of gas to run that. And that would have cost you £1.66. So as you can see, there is no situation, whether it's the coldest day in January or the warmest day in February, that it would have been cheaper to run a gas boiler than it would be to install the heat pump. And given the costs for me to install this were almost identical to putting in a new gas boiler, it makes sense because, as you can see yesterday, we generated 21.6 kilowatt hours on a miserable, overcast, cloudy February day. And we were able to run our heat pump for free. So come the summer, this thing is not going to cost us a penny to run. And unless you've got a gas refinery in your back garden, you're getting your gas for free, this is always going to beat out a gas boiler. That's it for today's video. I hope you found this useful. I really hope that I wouldn't keep having to make these videos, but you all keep piling into the comments and you all keep telling me that a gas boiler is cheaper and this is all just green nonsense. Maybe less Daily Mail, a little bit more research. With that, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to take these guys for a walk, and I'll see you all back here real soon for another video. Take care. Bye-bye. Don't forget to like and subscribe.